Hollywood film star James Stewart is now a captain in the Air Force. Interviewed in Britain, he had this to say about his wartime job.
I'm afraid I'm a little out of practice at this appearing before the camera. About 3 years ago, the first day I got into the Army, I was asked to make a statement for the news.
Many of the great stars of Hollywood and European films were veterans of World War II, becoming famous many years later. But a few were already big stars during the golden age of Hollywood, even before the war, and they also enlisted to serve in the cause of freedom. Some of the greatest names of the day left the screen and enlisted, and they were Ronald Reagan, Henry Fonda, Clark Gable, and Jimmy Stewart. All of these celebrities served as high-profile celebrity warriors, and a few served in very dangerous occupations. Most people in the United States readily know the names of Clark Gable and James Stewart from their films, without knowing that they were commissioned officers during the war. James Stewart stood out above all the rest. What did James Stewart actually do during the war? What made him stand out above most other celebrities? What was his life like in Hollywood after the war?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, a veteran of the United States Army and Marine Corps, former history professor, book author, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
James Maitland Stewart was born on May 20th, 1908 in Indiana, Pennsylvania, where he grew up with his two younger sisters, Virginia and Mary. His mother was Elizabeth Ruth Stewart, and his father was Alexander Maitland Stewart, who owned a general store, started by his grandfather, J.M. Hardware Company. Stewart attended Indiana Normal School, Mercersburg Academy, and Princeton University, graduating in 1932 with a degree in architecture. Because it was the Great Depression, Stewart found work was very hard to find, but he did get a job as a setup man for the Falmouth Players on Broadway. He managed to start acting on stage in small parts and became better known as a good actor. And then Hollywood came calling in 1935. Stewart then signed a contract with MGM Studios, which started a legendary film career. During this time, he made 21 feature films alongside Ginger Rogers, Clark Gable, and Jean Harlow, among others. Few occupations were more dangerous than serving in the U.S. Army Air Corps over Europe, and James Stewart volunteered for such duty. His legend as an actor began before the war, and his legacy as a combat leader lasted long after the war. The family had a long and distinguished military tradition. His third great-grandfather, Fergus Moorhead, served in the American Revolution. His maternal grandfather was a Union general in the Civil War. His father, Alex, had served in both the Spanish-American War and World War I. Stewart earned his private and commercial pilot's license, and, in his own words, "Charles Lindbergh inspired me, like most young men of that time, as well as Eddie Rickenbacker in the First World War and Amelia Earhart. I wanted to fly, so I did." Stewart tried to enlist in the U.S. Army Air Corps in November 1940, but he was rejected for low weight compared to his height of 6 foot 3 inches. When the U.S. entered World War II after first being rejected, he enlisted again in February 1941. As an experienced pilot, he reported for induction as a private in the Air Corps on March 22, 1941, at age 33. Too old for aviation cadet training, so he applied for an Air Corps commission, both as a college graduate and a licensed commercial pilot. Stewart received his commission as a second lieutenant on January 1, 1942. Due to his experience, he spent over a year training pilots at Kirtland Army Airfield in Albuquerque, New Mexico, before his request was approved to go to England. He was a qualified B-17 and a B-24 pilot, and in 1943, November, he arrived in England as a captain and part of the 445th Bombardment Group, flying B-24 Liberators, based initially at RAF Tibenham, then relocating to RAF Old Buckingham in East Anglia. He was briefed on and well aware of the two worst days in Air Corps history, the August 17th and October 1943 missions to Schweinfurt and Regensburg, which almost saw Congress defund the bombing program. Those missions cost the 8th Air Force 60 B-17s and over 550 men on the first mission, and 60 B-17s shot down, with another 17 scrapped and losing over 600 men on the second mission. Morale took a dive as a result, but Stewart understood how to raise morale. Stewart volunteered to fly as often as he could, and he was a taskmaster, grilling every crew member of his crew on their job, skills, and throwing out hypothetical situations to see what their corrective action would be. Stewart knew his bomber inside and out. He wanted to ensure each man had equal knowledge because all of their lives depended on it. One time, one of his crews had not been paid for over a month, and Stewart found out about it. He took them to the pay officer and instructed the lieutenant handling payroll that if these men were not paid within 30 minutes, he would find himself transferred to the infantry. The men were paid on the spot. Stewart volunteered to fly the December 24th Christmas Eve mission to Calais, France, to hit the German V-1 rocket launching sites. Intelligence stated that flak and fighters would be heavy. Some of Germany's best fighter pilots were there and were well known. Stewart then went to his crew and told them that this would be a low-level mission, 12,000 feet, not 25,000, and he would only take volunteers. He was not ordering anyone on this very dangerous mission. His men were dedicated to him, and they all volunteered. The mission was a great success, as the estimated 12 launchers were destroyed along with their V-1 flying bombs. Stewart was promoted to major following the mission on January 7, 1944, to Ludwigshafen, Germany. As the leader of the 445th Bombardment Group, he realized that the 2nd Division commander made a navigational error and was off course by 30 degrees, and Stewart knew it. But rather than adjust to the proper compass heading and reduce the effectiveness of the formation safety, he made the call to stay with his leader. That mistake by the leader would be expensive, because once they left Ludwigshafen, at 28 miles south of Paris, over 60 German fighters, Bf-109s and FW-190s, carved into the B-24 formations. The lead element was torn apart, bombers going down, parachutes dotting the sky. Stewart kept his formation together and tight in their box and brought all 48 of the air-cruising aircraft home. The unit morale was high. He used his celebrity and rank to hold dances for the younger officers and the local English women, sometimes playing piano himself. He did some radio broadcasts for the war effort, and this was when he became friends with Pamela Churchill, who was Winston's daughter-in-law at that time. Pamela said during her interview, "James was such a gentleman, and he was really adored by his men, even though he was a hard commander. They saw him as fair. It was not beyond him to make recommendations for medals and promotions for those he thought were deserving." Stewart earned a reputation as a good officer and leader, and the nickname Lucky Jimmy, because he always brought his crews back home, an almost impossible feat to achieve. His leadership style was unique to his personality, and he dealt with disciplinary problems how he saw fit. When he entered the hut of one of his crews, he discovered a stolen beer keg, a serious infraction. He then proceeded to have beer with the men, then asked if they knew anything about a keg being stolen from the officers' mess. The men maintained their ignorance. Stewart and the men finished the beer, and he said, "I'm sure that nothing like this will happen again." He left. There was no punishment, and he kept his silence, but the men never stole another keg. Stewart was flying more missions than almost any other officer of his rank, sharing the dangers, even on the deeper raids into Germany as far as Berlin. Leading by example, sharing the minus 20-degree temperatures or colder, flak and fighters, is the best way to earn a man's respect, despite his rank. Stewart earned it in spades. There was some concern from others that Stewart was taking too many chances, even though he had only flown 12 missions with the 445th. He was an American icon, a hero to many, and it was considered a disaster for the war effort and morale back home if he were killed or captured. It was decided that he should be reassigned, which would remove him from flying duties, so he was transferred to the 453rd Bombardment Group in March, following the March 22nd mission to Berlin. He became the new operations officer for the 453rd and proved to be one of the best mission planners in the Air Service. But there was another reason Stewart was sent there. Losses had been high, and morale was low, so it was believed that his magic of raising morale would not hurt. But if the brass thought that his new job would ground him, they were wrong. In May, Stewart was briefed on the coming D-Day landings in Normandy and the preparatory bombing that would lead up to the amphibious invasion. He was also promoted to lieutenant colonel the day before the invasion. Stewart had his 453rd bombers busy softening up German positions before and for 9 days after the landings, and in June, they flew 33 missions, losing only 4 bombers. For his service as deputy commander of the 2nd Bombardment Wing, he was awarded 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 3 Air Medals, and the Croix de Guerre with Palm by France. Near the end of his World War II service in Europe, he was promoted to full colonel on March 29, 1945, in the Army Air Corps. He had been decorated by Britain, France, and the United States for his service and 20 combat missions he flew over Germany. One of his last and least appealing duties before returning home was presiding over the courts-martial in June 1945 of a pilot, First Lieutenant William Sencock, and his navigator, First Lieutenant Theodore Balides, who accidentally bombed Zurich, Switzerland. They were eventually found not guilty due to faulty navigational equipment. Stewart often came into contact with his almost equally famous superiors, such as Generals James H. Doolittle, Curtis E. LeMay, Carl Spaatz, and others. All thought him a most reliable and competent officer. The men who served under Stewart always recalled him as never displaying fear, always calm and in control. He never raised his voice, even during flak or fighter attacks. Watching fellow bomber crews and their aircraft blown apart, men falling to their deaths, and enemy fighters tearing up a bomber and survivors bailing out, often took their toll of those men who witnessed such events. Keeping men focused, calm, and in control during such intense battle is the greatest challenge of any leader. Stewart himself explained his method of leadership under fire. Fear is an insidious and deadly thing. It can warp judgment, freeze reflexes, breeds mistakes. Worse, it is contagious. I knew that my own fear, if not checked, could infect my crew members, and I could feel it growing within me. During my interview, he said, "You have to know your men. You have to see the ones who are close to the edge and those with a lot of missions. Despite being seasoned, they also had a lot of things to try and forget. Not easy. You must be in total control and let them know that they will be all right, that you are with them. You will not abandon them. You are there until it's over. And if you are a self-assured leader, you will see the positive results. My only fear was in failing my men. They counted on me." But Stewart's fame extended far beyond the United States or Great Britain. He was also a big star in Europe. But one little-known fact that I shared with him was the fact that he and Clark Gable both had bounties on their heads. The German pilot who shot either of them down would get 100,000 Reichsmarks. This was because the Luftwaffe Commander-in-Chief Hermann Goering and many of the older, old-school pilots were also fans of American films, and Stewart, being a well-known actor as well as a pilot, was of great interest. Hitler's mistress, Eva Braun's favorite film was Gone with the Wind, and her favorite actor was Clark Gable. Arthur Axmann, the leader of the Hitler Youth, Lieutenant General Hans Bauer, a World War I ace and Hitler's personal pilot and possibly his best friend, actress and director Leni Riefenstahl, as well as others, admired the two men and their work in film. They all knew of the great interest in both Gable and Stewart. SS Lieutenant General Karl Wolff said, Hitler would have liked either or even both men captured, just to meet with them. He did not wish them harm, and he thought that it would be good for German morale. Even propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels and his wife Magda were great fans of both men, especially Clark Gable. Stewart was also one of the 12 founders of the Air Force Association in October 1945, and he transferred to the United States Air Force Reserve after the Army Air Force became an independent branch in 1947. During active duty periods, he served with the Strategic Air Command and completed transition training as a pilot on the B-47 and B-52. In 1948, he attended a party at his friend's house, fellow actor Gary Cooper, when he met Gloria Hattrick McLean. They were married a year later, and they had twin daughters, Kelly and Judy, along with Gloria's 2 sons from a previous marriage, Michael and Ronald. Tragedy struck when Ronald was killed in the Vietnam War on June 8, 1969, at the age of 24 while serving as a lieutenant in the Marine Corps. Stewart wanted to return to making movies, but he did not want to do any war films, feeling that the nation had had enough of that. And he wanted to do comedies. He also let it be known that when he arrived back home to see his parents, he did not want the parade and fanfare that was planned. He just wanted to become an average American citizen and relax. He stayed current with his flying. He bought a twin-engine Beech Bonanza for personal use and transitioned into the newer heavy bombers for the Air Force. On July 23, 1959, Stewart was promoted to Brigadier General, becoming the highest-ranking actor in American military history. During the Vietnam War, he flew as a non-duty observer on a B-52 on an arc flight raid, a bombing mission that took place in February 1966. Stewart served for 27 years and retired from the Air Force on May 31, 1968, receiving the Air Force Distinguished Service Medal. Stewart appeared in 88 films and television shows, including westerns, musicals, suspense thrillers, military and war films, action films, family films, biographies, and comedies. Stewart became a best-selling author and published a book of poetry and was an Academy Award Lifetime Achievement recipient. He was also awarded the Golden Globe, Cecil B. DeMille, and American Film Institute Awards for Lifetime Achievement. President Reagan awarded him the Medal of Freedom. When his wife Gloria died in 1994, just a few months after my interview with him, Stewart retired from public life, and he truly loved her and missed her terribly. One thing he said to me that I will share with the readers and the viewers: if you find that one right person, you will complete your life. Cherish it and protect it. There is no greater experience in life. On June 25, 1997, a thrombosis formed in his right leg, leading to a pulmonary embolism a week later. James Stewart died of a heart attack caused by the embolism at the age of 89, surrounded by his children at his home in Beverly Hills on July 2, 1997. More than 3,000 mourners attended his memorial service, including Carol Burnett, Bob Hope, and Robert Stack, to name a few. Brigadier General James M. Stewart, USAF, retired, was buried with full military honors at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. He was truly a quiet hero and one of the best representatives of what we call the greatest generation today. He was also a decent man and a great patriotic American.
Now I have my own outfit, the Heavy Bombardment Group, so we are very proud to be here. And we're going to do our best to be useful as soldiers of the United States Army. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Forgotten History. Please click like, subscribe, and share. Send us comments and show ideas, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Until next time.